You've probably heard the story, right? Saudi Arabia, the country that banned Pokémon. It's almost become this piece of internet trivia, a go-to example of a bizarre ban. But what if that viral story you think you know is just a tiny piece of a much bigger, more complicated picture? Well, let's get into it. A lot of us probably remember headlines just like this one. It was 2016, Pokémon GO was taking over the entire planet, and the story seemed pretty simple. This new game is a global sensation, and Saudi Arabia is cracking down, bringing back an old ban on Pikachu and the whole crew. Seemed like a classic culture clash story. So was that the real story? Not even close. The truth is way more nuanced and honestly a lot more interesting. That 2016 headline was really just an echo of a decision made 15 years earlier, a decision that got twisted and simplified every single time it was shared. Okay, so first things first. To understand what really happened, we have to look at how the Pokémon GO craze managed to dig up this 15-year-old story and create a perfect storm of media hype. So picture this. It's July 2016. Millions of us are wandering around swiping up to catch Pokémon. And right in the middle of all that, news outlets start reporting that Saudi Arabia's top religious body had renewed its Fatwa, that's a religious ruling, against the franchise. All of a sudden, the story was set. Pokémon GO is banned there. But then, something interesting happened. Saudi officials actually came out and issued a clarification. They said, hold on, no new ruling has been issued at all. They were just referencing an old one from way back. And that was the first big crack in the viral story. So what really went down in 2001? To find out, we have to hop in the time machine and go all the way back to the original Pokémon craze in 2001. And to really get it, you first have to understand what a fatwa actually is. So fatwa isn't automatically a law that the government enforces. Think of it more like a powerful religious opinion or advisory. But, and this is a big but, in Saudi Arabia, a fatwa from the highest religious authority carries a ton of weight, and it can absolutely become the basis for government action. And that is exactly what happened here. And this is a super important distinction to make. This whole thing happened in two steps. First, in March of 2001, you had the Religious Council issue its opinion. Pokémon is haram, or forbidden. Then, a month later, the government's Ministry of Commerce took that religious opinion and turned it into an actual, full-blown commercial ban, ordering all the merchandise to be pulled from store shelves. So this wasn't just a suggestion, it had real teeth. Okay, this brings us to the biggest question of all. Why? Why would religious authorities and the government go after a kid's game? Well, the answer wasn't just one thing. It was actually a combination of 4 very specific theological and cultural concerns. All right, let's break these down. First up was gambling. The whole idea of buying random packs of cards was seen as a form of it, which is forbidden. Second, the concept of evolution in the game was seen as promoting Darwin's theory over Islamic creation doctrine. Third, and this is the part that really went viral, was the accusation that the cards had hidden symbols, 6-pointed stars linked to Zionism, Christian crosses, things like that. And finally, there was just this broader concern that the game was an unhealthy obsession that was, and I quote, possessing the minds of children. So those were the official reasons behind the ruling. But how that ruling was reported to the rest of the world, well, that's where the story splits into 2 completely different narratives. And the split was just night and day. Inside Saudi Arabia, the local media was framing the ban as a matter of religious duty, of protecting kids from harmful ideas. But internationally, the Western press latched onto the most sensational part, the Zionist conspiracy, and framed the whole thing as this bizarre, exotic ban from a faraway land. And the result of that? A pretty complex religious ruling with all these different layers got completely flattened into a simple, easy-to-mock caricature for a global audience. This is pretty much why the myth of the bizarre Pikachu ban is so much more famous than the actual nuanced reality. But the story doesn't just end there. In fact, the legacy of this ban has taken on a whole new life in recent years, becoming this powerful symbol of just how much has changed in Saudi Arabia. I mean, just look at this timeline. It tells such a dramatic story. In 2001, Pokémon cards are literally being taken off shelves. Fast forward to 2016, the story comes roaring back with global confusion. But then, just a couple of years later, the very same country starts hosting massive comic cons, anime festivals, and huge gaming tournaments. The turnaround is just incredible. What's so fascinating is that the Pokémon ban has basically become this historical benchmark. It's now used by analysts and even by Saudis themselves to measure the unbelievable speed of cultural change, to go from seeing a cartoon as a threat to actively promoting global pop culture. Ultimately, the story of Pokémon in Saudi Arabia leaves us with a really fascinating question. It just goes to show that a global phenomenon like Pokémon is never just one thing. Its meaning gets debated and reshaped and fought over by religious authorities, by the media, by the public. It's a powerful reminder that when culture goes global, the story is almost never as simple as it looks.